Just before midnight at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, in what must have been a darkened room inside the White House, lit only by the glow of his phone, the President of the United States crossed a line he can never walk back. It wasn't a policy failure or a misstep. It was a deliberate act by a man who no longer has impulse control to hide what he really thinks. He reshared a video so grotesque and so dehumanizing that no person in public office, let alone the presidency, should be anywhere near it. The clip showed Trump as a lion, the king of the jungle, looming over his political enemies as cartoonish prey. The audio was set to "The Lion Sleeps Tonight," pulled from a longer meme video depicting Democrats as animals. But as deranged as that was, it wasn't the worst of it. The video included Barack and Michelle Obama, the first Black president and First Lady of the United States, depicted as apes. To say out loud that the President of the United States made the conscious decision to share such revolting, racist propaganda is not just personal disgrace, it is a moral failure for our entire country. And it's not lost on anyone that it happened during Black History Month. Because this wasn't just offensive, it was racist, it was disgusting, and it was dangerous. And if we look even deeper, what we're really seeing is a sitting president distributing memes that paint his enemies as animals to be hunted. We are not looking at a man with a political message. We are looking at a man bearing his authoritarian instincts in public proudly. We are watching what happens when someone with no guardrails, no shame, and no conscience holds power. Someone who incites violence not as a side effect, but as a strategy. And someone who knows exactly what these images do and shares them anyway. The official response from the White House made everything worse. Instead of apologizing or pretending to care, Press Secretary Leavitt dismissed the entire thing as fake outrage. She didn't deny the video was real. She didn't explain how it got posted. She didn't even try to clarify whether the president saw the part depicting the Obamas as apes. She just told the American people to stop reacting, to stop caring, and she said, please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American people. That is what she wrote in a statement to the press. As if it's normal for a sitting president to use his platform to dehumanize Black Americans. And she forgot the part where millions of us do care very much about our Black neighbors and about our children and about what this country is becoming. Her response wasn't damage control. It was contempt. It was a message to the public. We can do anything, and you'll either excuse it or get used to it. And that's not spin. That's psychological warfare. And buried inside her dismissal was a direct link to the longer version of the video, posted by a pro-Trump meme account. She wasn't distancing the White House from it. She was endorsing it and promoting it. This wasn't a one-time lapse or misunderstanding. It was full participation in the far-right propaganda machine. It was a deliberate choice to amplify hate. But this time, something cracked. The post stayed up for nearly 12 hours, long enough to cause real harm and be seen by millions, but not long enough to survive the backlash. The NAACP responded in a post on X saying, Trump posting this video, especially during Black History Month, is a stark reminder of how Trump and his followers truly view people. And we'll remember that in November. And then came Tim Scott's response. He's a Black Republican senator and a close Trump ally, someone who has excused and normalized countless things in the past. But this time, even he couldn't hold the line. He said, praying it was fake, because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. And he was right. Republican Rep. Mike Lawler, who is fighting to keep his seat in New York, also called it out, saying it was wrong and incredibly offensive. And he demanded it be taken down with an apology. Their motives might not be moral, but the pressure landed. According to CNN, GOP lawmakers personally called Trump about the post. That's what finally moved the needle, not decency or responsibility, but backlash from within his own fragile coalition. They didn't care until it became a liability, but the outrage worked. It didn't change who Trump is. It just forced him to retreat, even just a little. And then came the expected lie from the Trump regime. After spending the morning defending the post, the White House quietly changed course. Just before noon, they claimed a staffer had made the post erroneously. No name or explanation, just a vague attempt to push the blame somewhere and pretend the president didn't know. But no one believed it. This was one post among dozens he shared in the middle of the night. He fixates on his enemies and obsesses over the Obamas. The idea that this particular video just miraculously slipped through, that's not just implausible, it's insulting, especially coming from the same man who spent the past year accusing President Biden of being unaware of what he was signing when the auto pen was used. Trump built his entire narrative on the idea that Biden wasn't really in charge. So now we're supposed to just believe a rogue staffer posted racist propaganda under his name while he slept peacefully in the White House. They can't have it both ways. Either Trump is running the show, or he's so far gone he doesn't even know what's being said in his own voice. Either version is dangerous, though, and both are completely unacceptable. And what makes this moment even more terrifying is that there's no longer a line between Trump's private instability and his public power. He's not just saying the quiet part out loud. He's acting on it in real time from inside the White House. The man who once at least understood how to mask his worst instincts has lost that ability. There's no strategic silence, no delay for optics, just raw, impulsive reaction. And that collapse in self-control isn't just disturbing, it's a direct threat to national security. If this is what he's capable of in a moment of ego or spite, what happens in a real emergency? What happens when the alert goes off at 3 a.m.? A military provocation, a cyber attack, a nuclear decision point. Does anyone honestly believe this man has the judgment, the focus, or the clarity to respond? He couldn't even stop himself from broadcasting a violent, racist video in the dead of night. So what makes us think he could lead the country through an actual crisis without taking all of us down with him? So why did he post it? Was it a distraction, a slip, an act of desperation? The truth is, it doesn't have to be just one thing. It could be a cover for something else, a sign of cognitive decline, or just an attempt to incite. It can be all of it at once. That's the nature of authoritarian behavior. Chaos is part of the strategy. When they create outrage, they create cover. And when they provoke violence, they justify crackdowns. When we're all talking about the grotesque thing he just posted, we're not talking about the other damage he's doing. And that damage is coming fast, under the radar, while everyone is busy reacting. And that's the point. That's always been the point. They want to keep us outraged and exhausted because distraction protects power. And while the headlines were filled with that grotesque video, something else happened, something we're not talking enough about. The last major nuclear arms treaty between the United States and Russia expired. It was called New START, and it was the only remaining agreement limiting the size of both countries' nuclear arsenals and providing inspection protocols that built trust and prevented either side from stockpiling in secret. Those limits are now gone. For the first time since 1972, there are no caps on nearly 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. Trump didn't even try to preserve what we had. New START was, ironically, originally negotiated by President Obama in 2010 and extended by President Biden in 2021 as one of his first acts in office. Vladimir Putin offered to voluntarily maintain its limits for another year while a new deal was negotiated, and Trump rejected it, calling it a badly negotiated deal and insisting he wants a new agreement that includes China. But that's not how these work. You don't let one collapse and hope a better one magically appears while nothing is in place. You build from what exists. So instead, he just let it fall apart, just like he's collapsing the rest of the global order. And now our allies, especially in Europe, are being forced to consider rearming because they no longer trust the United States to protect them. The destabilizing is real, and it's happening under a president who can't even control his own thumbs at midnight. And that's the part they're counting on us all to miss. While the world grows more dangerous and unstable by the day, they want us too numb, distracted, or too hopeless to even react. But we still have power, and we've seen it work. I know it's easy to feel like nothing matters anymore, like no amount of outrage will be enough to make a difference. But the truth is, this time, it did. That post came down, and statements were issued, and damage control kicked in. They tried to pretend it never happened. It doesn't undo the harm, but it proves something we can't afford to forget. Pressure still works. Not because it changes Trump, but because it disrupts the machinery around him. And that disruption creates cracks we can widen. If we keep speaking and we keep pushing and we don't give in to the exhaustion they're counting on, because what's coming next isn't just another election. The 2026 midterms will decide whether Trump continues to control every branch of government or whether we take some of it back. And right now, Republicans hold both chambers of Congress. And if that doesn't change before the next presidential race, they'll also control what happens after the votes are cast. They'll control the certification, the oversight, and they'll control the outcome. And we've already seen what they're willing to do to protect power. We've already watched them try to overturn an election. This time, they'll be better organized. They'll know what worked and what didn't. And if we don't flip both chambers in November, they'll be in the perfect position to try again. This isn't about politics. This is about whether the next election even counts. And that means getting real about who we're reaching. If someone is still clinging to MAGA after all of this, they're not the priority right now. That doesn't mean we give up on the truth or them. It does mean, though, that we stop wasting time trying to convert people who've made it clear they don't want to be reached. We need to be laser focused on the voters who are against what Trump is unleashing but didn't vote in 2024. The ones who are too busy, burned out, or disillusioned and don't think that their voice matters anyways because nothing ever changes. That's where elections are won or lost, and that's where we need to focus our attention. We're already seeing real movement. People who didn't make voting a priority in the past are out there now protesting and speaking out. They're realizing just how much is at stake and just how much their vote actually matters. And if we pour our energy into reaching more people like them, if we get the kind of turnout we had in 2020, this nightmare could finally start to turn. And I see that same commitment in so many of you. Those of you who support independent media, who share these posts, who make it possible for voices like mine to keep going. You are the reason I'm able to do this full time. You're the reason I can reach people on the sidelines who still need to hear it. Maybe not from a headline, but from a voice that sounds familiar. Sometimes it takes hearing the truth more than once, from more than one place, in more than one tone. And that's what you have made possible. And I can't thank you enough for being in this with me. You're the reason I still believe we can turn this around. This is why I still have hope for America, and you should too. And if you've made it this far, we're probably on the same page and definitely on the same side of history. So if you can, please take a moment, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, like this video, anything to let the algorithm know to show it to more people. And no matter how dark the days get, and they're gonna get darker, I will be here every single day. And together, we're gonna keep hope for America alive. I'll see you tomorrow.